Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Scott Galloway. I'm a solution architect on the QuickBase team. Really excited to be talking to you today about creating a distributed ecosystem of apps with pipeline record linking in buckets. This is really cool technology that I'm really excited about. It's a pretty ambitious topic for a quick hit session, but I'm going to do my best and I hope you all enjoy it. A few things before we get started. In the chat windows, we have people available for you, even though this is a recorded session. They're there for you if you have any technical issues or questions. Also, at the end of the session, you'll get a link to review this session. I hope you all enjoy it. So let's get started. All right, so we're gonna go through a few things here. One, really quick overview of what pipelines is. Two, what are linked records? Then we'll talk a little bit about what buckets are, and then I'm going to demo a solution for you. So let's jump in. So pipelines overview. So about 6 or 7 months ago, QuickBase acquired a company called Cloud Pipes. And then for about 3 or 4 months, our product development team spent time integrating pipelines, as we call it today, into the broader QuickBase ecosystem. So we have our traditional QuickBase application platform where citizen developers build applications, right, very easily and rapidly. And now we have pipelines which allow citizen integrators or IT teams to build really rich integrations and workflows. So if you've used our automations functionality before, right, pipelines now takes that to a whole nother level for orchestrating workflow and QuickBase applications. Right, but even more so, allows you to integrate with other cloud services. In addition to that, things like backend master data systems like SAP and things of that nature. The anatomy of a pipeline. So essentially a pipeline is just a workflow that someone puts together to automate a process. Here in the middle, you see a list of channels. Our channels are essentially utility channels to do things like scheduling, or there's some sort of cloud platform that's out there that you can connect to do integrations between QuickBase and that service, or even between those two services. That's one of the great things about pipelines. You don't even need to use it for QuickBase to some other service. The last piece here is steps. So steps are just what make up a pipeline. So in this use case, step A, a record's created. Step B, we're searching for records, probably using some of the data from step A. And then step C, we're just iterating through the records that we returned from our search, and we're creating records somewhere else. So that's the anatomy of a pipeline. Real quick overview of what pipelines is. So now let's talk about what linked records are. So consider a situation, right, where you have a project management application and the project portfolio app. You might even have a collection of project management apps, right? In those project management applications, there's subtle differences in the projects where it just warrants creating a separate application for that type of project. Then you have your project portfolio application, which you're going to have some standard data across your projects like status, budget, timelines, right? All of that is information that would live in your project portfolio app, so that executives or leadership get a bird's eye view into the overall project portfolio and what's going on across all those projects. So generally how that's handled is when you create a project, right, in your project management application, you want to then create an associated record in your project portfolio app. Right? When you do that today, there's a ton of different ways that people keep these things in sync. So these two records that are associated get updated accordingly. Maybe it's storing record IDs, doing some queries on some other key information. But with pipelines, you don't have to do that. There's some really cool functionality in there called record linking. So what that does is, say in step B, right, steps in pipeline, step A, step B. Step B, where you've created the record based on the creation of a record in step A, you can just simply say, link to the record in step A. And when you do that, what happens is now the record in step A is linked to B and B is linked to A. So the way that you would leverage something like this is in another pipeline, when you go to update, say, the record in your project management application, you can just simply say, go get me the linked record. And once you get the linked record, you can update it. Don't have to worry about record IDs or relationships or search keys and things like that. It just knows. So I'm going to demonstrate some of that for you. But first, I'm going to show you how to build it. Instead of you having to watch me fumble through building this, I've created some recordings that I'm going to talk you through what's going on. So the first thing is we want to create some linkage between those two records, Project Management App, Project Portfolio App. So first we go to our QuickBase channel, we drag over a record created, right? And then we go find our table. And so in this case, this would be our projects table in our finance app. And then we select the fields that we want to use in subsequent steps. So then we go back and we drag another step on. Now we want to create a record in our roll-up app or our project portfolio app. So there's the table, roll-up projects, and then we select the fields that we want to update in it or populate when we create. So then we'll go through and we'll just drag from step A, the status, into step B, the name from step A to step B, so on and so forth. As we go through this, at the end, what you'll see is we have this nice little functionality down here that says link, right? So what we're doing here is we're saying, we're in step B, that we want to link the record being created in step B to the record that was created in step A, right? So now, how do we leverage that? So here, we're going to update a record using that linkage. So first step is when a record's updated. So when a record is updated in my project management application or my finance project management application, what we want to do is we want to go and the first thing is well, what do we want to update? Budget and status. The next piece to this is we want to go and then fetch the linked record, right? So step A is records updated in project management app. Step B is go look up my linked record. So the linked record in step A. And then once I find that record, what values do I want to update? Well, budget and status. The last step here is I want to go update that record that I've just fetched. So if you look here, we want to go update and populate status and budget. And we want to go populate those with the values that are coming from the project management application. So you see A.status and A.budget. And at the top there, it's just saying you want to update the record that was fetched in step B. So that would be your project portfolio application. No record IDs, no relationships, just saying record was updated in project management. Therefore, I want to go update the project portfolio app. Very, very cool stuff. So here's that use case in a visual diagram, right? We have our, you would have, say, 3 industry apps, all managing projects, subtle differences in each one. The record linking, whether you're doing a creation or an update into the project portfolio app. So now, what are buckets? So Pipelines is built on top of Google Cloud Platform, and Google Cloud Platform provides a lot of really cool technology. One of those things is this concept of buckets. And all buckets they're in-memory tables. They're persistent. So you can essentially define a bucket or a table and define your rows, and that table persists through out there in memory, and you can leverage that table in any other pipelines that you create. So what we're going to do is we're going to leverage buckets and record linkage to link an external system with QuickBase applications. So the first thing we want to do is create a bucket table. This is a very simple step. It's only done once, right, to create the bucket. So we go to the bucket channel and we go ahead, we say we want to create a table. And here we define what that table name is. So we'll say it's a project table key. That's the name of the table. And here we can list as many rows as we want. It's comma separate. In this case, we're just going to create one key field. And excuse me, one field, and that's going to be the project key. This will be the key field that comes from our external system eventually. So once we've done that, all we have to do is go up here into that top right corner and click on Run Pipeline. That'll run once. It'll create this table. This table is virtual. It's out there. It's leveraged by. It can be leveraged by other pipelines. Then what I generally do is I update this to be a, instead of creating a table, it then can update, right? So I'll replace that create table with an update table so that if I ever want to add a column of data or a column to track more data, I can do that. I can update the existing table that's out there in memory. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about that use case where we're creating the bucket and the record linkage between the external system and the project management applications. So here's that visual that we talked about. Now let's just say you had, say, a SQL database. And that SQL database was used for managing all the budgeting, right? The budgeting is done outside of the scope of QuickBase. Right, but you still want any updates to the budget to be updated inside of QuickBase. So what you would do is you'd create a pipeline that adds a row to the bucket and then links that to a QuickBase record. Right. So what we would do is that very first pipeline that we created. Where when a project is created in our project management app, we want to create a project in the portfolio app, we're going to add one more step to that, and that's adding a row to our bucket and linking that row in the bucket to the project when it's created. That way, when there's an update from the external system just has to send the data to this pipeline. The pipeline then looks up the project key and then goes and fetches the link record. So the external system doesn't need to know anything about record IDs. It doesn't have to know anything about the applications it needs to integrate with. This is a really nice feature because now the external system doesn't have to build in any functionality to know where to send the data. It just sends it to one place, and then Pipelines handles the distribution of the updates to whichever application it needs to. So how do we do that? So here's that first pipeline that we created where when a record is created inside of the project application or the project management application right there, then we would go and we'd create a project in the rollup or the project portfolio application. And there's our linkage to it. So now we want to add a step. And that step is to add a row to that bucket. So we go to our bucket channel, we grab create row. And then here in the create row, we say which table we want to create the row in. That's our project table key. And then here's our project key that is going to be coming from the external system, right? And that project key, we set it right there. And then we go ahead and we say link this row that we're creating to the record that was created in step A. Again, that project management application. So once we've done that, the next step is to go ahead and build out the pipeline where when the external system sends data to the pipeline, it then goes out, finds that row, gets the linked record, and then updates the budget accordingly. So there's a lot of steps here. I'm not going to build it on the fly. I'm just going to walk you through one that's already created. So here we go. First, we'd use a webhook and we'd use an incoming request, right? And that's grayed out because we've already created it. Then next, we're going to take data from that incoming request and we're going to search that project table key. And we want to do where the project key is equal to the value that's coming in from that request, which is a project key. I'm going to demonstrate that for you live in a second. That'll return us a list of records. Actually, in this case, it'll only be one. There should only ever be one in that key. And then we will fetch the link record in the Finance Project app, and we'll say that we want to update the budget field. And then right here, we're going to update the record, right? And we're going to use the value coming in, which is that budget value. Again, I'm going to demonstrate that in a moment. So here we go. Let's go do a live demo and see how that works. All right, so here we have our record linking applications. In this case, we have this finance application. So let's go into that. This is empty. This is a very basic application just for the purpose of demonstration. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say I'm going to create a new project here. This is going to be demo project 1. We're going to say the status is in progress, and let's just say the budget is $2,000. So when I go ahead and save this, there's a pipeline running in the background, that one that I showed you, where it goes ahead and creates in this roll-up app an equivalent or associated record. So we go here, and this is our roll-up app, and if we're lucky, yeah, the demo gods are with me, there's that project. Now going back to the project management application, if I was to update it, this is the second pipeline we created. Let's just say I update the status, right, to in progress. I go ahead and do that. And again, if I'm lucky, that pipeline will have already run. And there it is, it's in progress, right? So these are some things that, yeah, you could do in automations, but there's some more steps that you have to take with, querying and record IDs and things like that. And so the linkage is just managed for you. Now let's take this a step further, right? If we wanted to take the equivalent of an external system, there's a tool that a lot of folks use called Postman. And I don't expect you to understand every aspect of this if you've never done it before. But essentially what it is it's a tool that allows me to hit an endpoint that would be the pipelined endpoint that I created. And I'm sending in a project key and a budget. Now, I just happen to know, because I was setting up this demo, that the key will be F-6. Right, so if we look here, F-6 is the source key that was created for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I have that endpoint waiting right here, and I'm going to pass this information in. So I go ahead and say send. Once I'm done sending that data in, there's a pipeline that runs, right? So the first pipeline that runs should have updated this guy. There it is. The budget went from 2,000 to 50,000. Now there's that second pipeline that is just supposed to update the project portfolio app when the project management app gets updated. So just by virtue of sending the update to this app through the bucket, fetching the record, updating this bucket, because I have all the linkage, the project portfolio app should have updated to 50,000 as well. And sure enough, there it did. So that's it. That's all I have for today for the quick hit. So we basically went through record linking, leveraging buckets with record linking, and using an external system to send updates to those project management applications. I hope you enjoyed the session. I'm going to be available for questions afterwards. I hope you guys start to look at and leverage pipelines. There's a lot of really cool stuff in there. So thank you.